Good morning, everybody. And here we go. Here we go. Now, that's Guess That Tune. All of you out there, I want you to write in because you go on my site, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can see a phone number there. And all of you take a guess. What is the name of that tune and who wrote it? And every one of you will receive $100 million. Don't you love it when people con you like that? You know, it happens all the time. Anyway, that was my new horn. Today is my birthday. And I was born January 19th, 1936. I say it's my birthday, but it's actually my birthday anniversary. But I got this horn as a birthday present, and I wanted to play it just to try it out. It's a beauty. It's black nickel plated and with gold appointments, and I love it. So there we go. Now, this is Life After Scientology, obviously, and I'm Ron Miscavige. I'm your host, and it's probably the only program on TV or the internet where you can come on the show and a guy comes on who's going to do an interview and he plays a standard song or one of these memorable songs, just like today, and offer you $100 million if you can. By the way, just so you all know, I'm only joking. I'm not going to give you $100 million, but I thought it would be nice to say that, just make you feel good for a minute, You probably, all of you probably know the name of it. Anyway, getting down to business, this show is about the abuses of Scientology. And I have a very special guest on today who has an incredible story. I say incredible, but these are totally believable to me because it's their modus operandi, how they operate, how they treat people, and they think it's all right. Well, it's not okay with me and some other people like me who want to expose them. And hopefully one day some politician with a little bit of courage is going to say, well, wait a minute. Let me check into this. Is this actually a church or is it a business? And hopefully they can lose their tax exemption status, and that would help us to take them down. Because I don't mind somebody doing a business as long as it's legitimate and they're not screwing people over like Scientology is. Anyway, without any further words, and by the way, if you like these shows, please share this with people. I want to see if I can get this site up to 100,000 views a week. So I would appreciate it if you do that. And also subscribe. Anyway, to get right into it, please welcome Katrina Reyes. Am I pronouncing your last name right, honey?
Reyes.
It is correct?
No, Reyes.
Oh, okay. Katrina Reyes. Katrina is from Russia, and it's an incredible story. So let's get right into it. And why don't you tell Katrina about when you first got introduced to Scientology and your mom and your grandmother and how you were tricked into coming to the United States. So let's go right into it, okay, kid?
Sure. First of all, happy birthday. Happy birthday anniversary. Let's get that out of the way.
Okay. All right.
I'm actually from Siberia, a very, very cold part of Russia, kind of in the middle of nowhere. And my grandmother got into, I'm not sure if you know or not, Herbalife.
Into what now?
Herbalife.
Don't know that.
They sell the supplements. It's like a pyramid scheme. They sell a whole bunch of supplements and vitamins and all that stuff.
Unbelievable.
It's really a pyramid scheme.
You know, that's how I got introduced into Scientology through Holiday Magic. Was a pyramid scheme.
Yep.
Okay,
yep.
You go on. It's wild.
So she got into Herbalife and she had some kind of conference in Clearwater, Florida, or somewhere in Florida. In that conference, there was a Scientologist who approached her, and that's how she got into Scientology. She ended up joining the Sea Org right away and started introducing us into Scientology, sending us books and other things. So what happened was she stayed because she had the 6-month visa, a tourist visa, and she was in the Sea Org flag, and she overstayed her visa for a few days. And then, of course, she was banned to come back into the United States for 10 years. So the Church of Scientology flag decided to give her a job in Moscow, and they posted her as an FSC, which is a flag service consultant. She was responsible to get people to Clearwater flag for services. That was pretty much her job.
What year was this, Katrina?
This was 1998.
Okay.
And obviously she was sending us books. We were in Siberia, me and my mom, and she got my mom introduced into Scientology. And again, it is so such a normal tactic for them that my mom had a huge loss in her life. My stepdad committed suicide and he died in her arms. So my grandmother, of course, roped her in with, you got to do these courses and you got to do this auditing, and it will help you with your grief and your health and everything else. So I did a couple courses, read a couple books, and then my grandmother told us to come to Moscow and that we were going to go to the United States. And that sounded great.
Wow. Did she tell you how to sign a contract, like a billion-year contract or anything?
Yeah, we got to Moscow, and we were basically, we had to do more courses because we couldn't be, too green. We had to, I did a children's communication course and a couple other courses, and the day came to sign the billion-year contract. And I remember reading through this and just thinking, this is insane. How is this a billion years? And my grandmother was like, well, you're going to keep living life after life, life after life. And I will tell you, I was always under the protest of joining the Sea Org or joining Scientology. I was not, I guess I didn't buy into it at 11 years old.
Well,
all I wanted
at 11 years old, I mean, what could be your reality at 11 years old,
Yeah, and to give a little bit of backstory, I had a pretty rough upbringing in Russia, especially in Siberia, and my mom kind of always been one of those parents who were just very, how can I say it, absentee parent.
She what now?
She was an absentee parent.
Yeah.
So she was never really around to take care of me. Men was always number one priority. And for me, at 11 years old, all I wanted was to have my mom and for her to love me and to spend time with me and take care of me.
Yeah.
So I guess deep down, I felt like, well, maybe joining this organization and going to America is a fresh start, and she will finally start caring about me.
Yeah.
So when we signed this year contract, my grandmother showed us pictures of the birthing, which is where everybody lives, and I remember she was showing us pictures of the hacienda. She was saying, oh, there's a pool and there's a gym, and look at all these accommodations. Don't they look so great? It looks so much better than the life that you're living right now. And of course, being very poor from a city in Siberia, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
So we signed the contract, and then I remember we had to go through all the visa process. And in the 90s, there was a big strain between the United States and Russia, and very few people got visas, even a tourist visa. So I was coached to lie to the consulate to basically prove to them that we are coming back. and that we're not leaving forever.
Yeah.
That we were just going on some religious volunteer retreat temporarily, and we will be back. And I remember we had to lie and show quote unquote evidence that like my mom owns property and that she has a job that's waiting for her, which was all a lie.
Yeah.
So that right off to me was very shady. But I was thinking, hey, we're going to the United States. I mean, that's the American dream, especially from somebody from Siberia, Russia.
I'll tell you something. How was Siberia to live? I mean, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you're
Yeah,
going from Siberia. What was life like there? That's cold all the time, isn't it?
it's very cold. It could go to minus 30 in the winter, minus 40. So it's very cold. Um, it was cold. It was miserable. At one point we were so poor that we literally lived in some small little wooden house with no running water, with no heat, with just a couple light bulbs for electricity.
Wow.
We had an outhouse.
Yeah.
So it wasn't easy. It was not easy. So the thought of coming to United States, especially after seeing,
Yeah.
Hollywood movies,
I can see how that would appeal to you. I could see
yeah,
that.
it
Yeah.
was very appealing.
But of course, it's not as they paint it, though. So what happened? And you got your visa, obviously, right?
Yep, we got a visa. I got so in legal terms, it's an R1 and R2. Religious working visa, that's what my mom got because she's an adult and she can work. And I got a religious volunteer visa, which is an R2. So I was not allowed to work because I was a minor. I was underage.
Yeah.
Um, so we get to flag, we start our EPF, and I mean, my mom flew by. She finished it in like 3 years. So we get to flag in October of 1999. She was done with her EPF by New Year's, and I struggled with studying. I mean, I'm 11 years old,
Yeah.
and here I have to learn this whole brand new language, which is Scientology language.
But
And
let me ask you this: how much English did you speak at that point? Were you pretty fluent in English?
none, zero,
Wow.
absolutely zero.
God.
But they did have the courses in Russian. They do have all the courses in, I don't know, like 15, 20
Oh,
languages.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So I had problems with studying. It was taking me a long time to get through the courses. But then I also had I got into trouble a lot. And my trouble came in with the fact that I'm a kid who's 11 years old, and all I want to do is have a normal kid life.
Yeah.
And here I am working 10, 12 hours a day, um, hard manual labor. We renovated the Sandcastle Hotel. We helped with the construction of the advanced organization in Sandcastle before it even opened. I am operating heavy duty machinery. Um, and I was miserable. I was absolutely miserable. I was also very upset because my mom finished the EPF and now she's living away from me because the EPF and the staff can't live in the same building.
Right.
So here I am all by myself. I don't have a mother close by. I don't speak any English. I don't know anybody. And I live in this filthy, disgusting dormitory um, with 6 people in one tiny room. I was miserable. Let's just put it that way.
Jesus Christ. All right. I don't blame you. I mean, a kid, you have to have some type of enjoyment as a kid growing up because that's your preparatory years for life, and it just can't all be
Yeah.
goddamn work that way. Anyway, go on. Continue, Katrina.
I guess for me also, and I don't know if you heard that before from people that joined the Sea Org when they were young. in their teenage years or something, it was appealing to them because you weren't treated as a kid.
Yeah.
I've spoken to quite a few people who said it was appealing to them because it was like, well, out in the real world, I'm being treated as a kid every single day, but here I can act as a grown up and everybody treats me as a grown up.
Yeah.
For me, it was the complete opposite. I kind of had to be the grown up already all my life. Um, Pretty much being abandoned by my mother and taking care of myself since I was 5 years old. So I wanted to be a kid. I
I
actually
understand.
wanted to have a kid experience
I
and, you
I
know,
I can understand that. Yeah.
yeah, I didn't want to be an adult. I've been an adult all my life. I just wanted to enjoy and be a kid.
Yeah. I don't blame
Um,
you at all.
yeah, so I got into a couple ethics cycles and trouble because I wrote a letter to my great aunt who was in Russia explaining how miserable I am and the fact that I'm not even going to school and I'm not getting any formal education.
Good Lord.
And then, of course, I got pulled into an ethics interview and I was the PTS, a potential trouble source, and we had to handle my grant on. And then I remember I had to lie to her and say, no, everything is great. I'm going to school now. I'm not working as much. Everything is great.
Yeah.
Um, and then my mom decided to get married again. And right now, this is my fourth stepfather. So let's just
Wow.
say I was not thrilled that she was getting married again, especially that I kind of finally wanted her to be a mother to me.
Yeah.
And I got into a fight with her and I told her that I am totally against her getting married, especially she only knew the guy for a month. And she wrote a knowledge report on me.
Wow.
And I got to go into ethics again and write all my OWs, and I got interrogated. And I think that was one of the biggest betrayals, uh, that my mother did.
I know.
And then by then, I kind of realized how the system works, and then I just had to shut up, not say anything, don't protest anything, and then I'll be okay.
And I'm going to tell you something. Once you decide to keep your mouth shut, man, I'll tell you, that's a terrible, terrible decision to make. You know that. Of course, you
Yeah,
realize that now.
yeah.
You know, you're only
They
as
they
you're only
they
as
broke
alive as
me.
you can communicate. That is a fact. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely broke me with the ethics interviews and the ethics cycles and writing my W's and everything else for months and months. And then it got to the point where they knew if they keep doing this, I'm going to shut up and just follow the orders. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, but Katrina, it happened to all of us at one point or another. Otherwise, you can't last.
Yeah.
You have to give up your idea of personal integrity and personal freedom for
Yeah.
the sake of the group. You know, the greatest good.
Yeah.
In other words, a complete and utter bullshit story. It's just terrible. But
Mhm.
anyway, continue. I just wanted to interject that. And
Yeah.
you had pretty miserable time, didn't you?
Yeah. I was, not only on the APF, I think it is completely outrageous that they have children doing heavy duty manual work,
Yeah.
um, construction, operating heavy duty machinery, like I said, or even down to um, you don't realize the things that happen to you were so outrageous until some time passes on and you talk to people. I remember telling somebody that I was operating an 18-foot industrial dishwasher at an age 12, and somebody said, how is that even possible? You could have gotten injured so badly.
Yeah.
um, but for me it just became normal. It was just so normal to do those types of jobs.
Okay. Now I have a question. Let's put this on the air. Did you have your passport at that time, or did you have to turn it in?
Oh no, it got taken away right away.
So
So when we came in, before we started the EPF, we had to go through the routing form to get approved and everything. Um, And, we had to fill out that life form, which I was very shocked by, that they
Yeah.
were asking an 11-year-old there was a lot of sexual questions. There was a lot of, are you connected to CIA, FBI, and all
I
that
know.
sort of stuff. So while we were doing all the steps through the form to get onto the EPF, right away, right then and there, our passports were taken away.
Now, you realize that you're taken from a foreign country under
Mhm.
not normal, truthful allegations as to what you're going to be doing. You get
Yeah.
to a foreign country and you give up your passport. That's
Hmm.
that's human trafficking. You know that.
And that is the absolute definition of human
Yeah, that
trafficking.
is human trafficking. And they
Hmm.
conduct this on a regular basis with people from Russia? Is this done normally?
Yes. And not only Russia, in my experience, and I was a flag for 8 years, I would say 60% of all Sea Org members were all from foreign countries.
And they're probably all told a similar story. You're going to lead a
Yes.
glorious life working in a 4-star hotel, and
Hmm.
you're going to meet movie stars, and it's America. And then you get
Yep.
here and you find out you're going to work 60 or 70 or 80 hours a week for almost next to nothing. And
A
you,
100 hours a week.
okay, and you don't have a choice as to whether you're going to do this or not. No,
Yep.
that is human trafficking. If there's
Absolutely.
anybody who has any influence in the government listening to this, please, will you guys grow a set of balls and do something about this? I'm
Yeah.
aiming this at anybody who has any influence in any way to get this investigated. Please do so. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue. I just wanted to get that in so it's on the air.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to your point, I think with a lot of foreigners, especially if they're coming from countries like Russia, which they have a lot of Russia, Poland, Belarus, post Soviet Union countries, Ukraine. And then they also have a lot of SEAL members that they recruit from South America. And one thing that's in common between all those countries is that people don't trust the government and they don't trust the police.
Yeah.
So for American, the idea of, well, you're being brought and then now you're being held hostage pretty much, and you're pretty much a slave. Well, why didn't you just go to the police? I think for a lot of people coming from those countries, it's not even an option for them because they don't even think about going to police because they don't trust the police.
I got that. That's a good
Um,
no, that's a good point you're making, because
yeah,
they came from an environment where they couldn't trust the police. So what makes them think they can trust the police here? I got it.
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, and then I finally finished my APF. My mom was married. She was working in the same castle as a cleaner. And I was given a job, which is called a tech page IC, a technical page in charge. And basically, in the dumbest terms, my job involved in getting the probationers scheduled and set for their next auditing session, and basically make sure that the probationer and the auditor go into session and the auditor doesn't waste any time.
Right.
So I did that in the advanced organization in the Sandcastle from 2000 till 2006. So for 6 years.
I got it. What?
And that wasn't even a piece of cake either. um, at Flag, I think at one point we were making close to 2 million a week.
Yeah.
So money was a big thing. Um, and a lot of times we would be yelled at by RTC. I mean, not a lot of times. It was on daily basis that we had one RTC rep on each floor because there's 3 floors. And it was get certain amount of intensive auditing completed so that now this public can go and sign up and buy more intensives.
Right.
And then also get OT levels completions. And a lot of times there was a lot of shady things going on. Like I would overhear conversations we got to get this guy back in session because he only has 1 hour left on his intensive. But it seems like he finished and he reached the end result of OT4. But we still want him. We want him to do complete OT4, but we also want the completion of the intensive. So the CS would write some bullshit questions, and the auditor will go in, and they would be literally in session for 1 hour and 3 minutes just to get that intensive done.
Yeah.
So it was all about money. Literally, everything was about money.
It is the Lord of Scientology. Make
Yeah.
money, make more money, make more money. And to hell with the individual.
Yeah.
So that was your job at the AO. And then actually, how did you get posted out of there? Or what happened after that?
No, what happened was, so since I came to United States when I was 11, in Russia, a child actually doesn't get their own personal passport until they are 16 years old. So the law is, if you're a parent and you have a child, your parent's passport has a page for children. So then a child gets written into the parent's passport.
Right.
Now, once a child hits 16 years old, they need to get their own passport. So what ended up happening was I didn't have any identification. I had no Russian passport. I had nothing. So I had to go back to Russia and get my citizenship passport so that at least I have some kind of ID. Although I did have a green card in the United States, I don't have any other form of ID.
Right. Was that in 2006 that you went back?
Yes, it was in 2006.
Okay.
And what happened was I think Russia came out with a new law that if you don't get your passport by the time you're 18, you're actually going to get fined. So I had to go get my passport. It became a legal issue when OSA was the one that told me about it, and they said you have to go get your passport. So I had to come up with my own money for an international flight, which we got paid maybe $40-some a week if we did good. And the flights are close to $1,000 usually.
How the hell did you save the money up for that?
So my mom gave me some, my stepdad gave me some, and then I saved up some of it, and then I ended up borrowing it from somebody else as well.
Wow.
So I ended up going to Russia and getting my passport done. And I got into a huge confrontation with one of my relatives and ended up going out with some of my school friends that I used to know when I lived there. And I ended up being roofied and raped.
Wow.
So literally the day before my flight to go back to Flag. And I got on the flight and went back, and I didn't, at first I didn't say anything to anybody because I knew right away I'm going to get in trouble for it. Probably RPF, which there was no way I was doing that.
Oh, yeah.
But then after some time, certain thoughts starts to creep in. What if I'm pregnant? What if I have some kind of illness? And that scared me, I think, more than getting into trouble. And I knew the security chief pretty well. So I went to Fort Harrison, and I figured if I speak to the security chief and he knows me pretty well, maybe they will take it easy on me. And I told him what happened. And right away, I was locked up under security watch 24/7. Moved out of my dorm, not allowed to speak to anybody. I had a security at my door every night. I was physically locked in the room in the security office in the Fort Harrison garage. And I was interrogated for 2 weeks because they didn't believe me.
So you got raped, but now you have to do a lower condition, or you're a bad girl because this happened to you. They don't take into consideration that you may have simply been a victim of some son of a bitch and say, hey, listen, what can we do to help you get over this? That doesn't run through their mind at all, right?
No, no,
That's just
because in Scientology, everything bad that happens to you, you pulled it in.
right.
So I did something in the past, something bad. That's basically this is a boomerang, and now it's coming back to bite me in the ass.
Wow.
So I had a security check, and I was interrogated for 2 weeks. I think the biggest thing that they couldn't understand, and I didn't understand until years after, was I didn't remember much. So they were saying, how do you not remember much? Now, years later, I realized that there is a drug out there that you don't remember anything.
Wow.
Now things make sense to me. But at that time, I'm 18 years old. I've never lived what you can say in the real world. I didn't even know anything about a drug called roofie. I was just telling them, I don't know, but I don't remember. It was after I had a drink, everything went black. And I guess they didn't believe me because they thought I was making it up. How could you not remember? So they said, okay, we will do a psych check. Because in Scientology, of course, you could remember all the times you were unconscious, and we can pull it out of you. So we did that for about 2 weeks, and we weren't getting nowhere whatsoever. It's impossible to remember things when you're unconscious under drugs. So eventually they decided to go down my life and get all my overts and withholds on second dynamic, which is anything has to do with procreation, sex, and children.
Yeah.
So they started asking me about any other LTD instances that I had, and we got to the point of my childhood, and I had a really, really abusive stepfather when I was 5, 6, 7 years old for 3 years. He used to physically assault me and hit me. He was emotionally abusive, and he would torture me emotionally. And we had an instance when he sexually abused me when I was a child. So I started telling them about that. And I knew that the security guard had an earpiece in, and I could actually hear people feeding him questions. And I hear that somebody's talking to him.
Wow.
And when I started telling him about the instance when my stepfather used to abuse me, the next question he asked me was, did you enjoy it?
Jesus Christ.
And that's when I lost it. I think that's where my bullshit meter just went, I've had enough.
Wow.
And I just put down the cans and I said, I'm done. I'm not fucking doing this anymore. This is inhumane. This is cruel. This is just disaster. And then COCMO and Mr. Webb, he was the RTCMA, walked in the room. And I figured they were the ones on the other side listening to everything.
Yeah, of course.
And he basically called me the B word and the C word. And he said, if I don't pick up the cans and I finish my sec check and I don't answer the questions, I'm gonna skedaddle back to where I came from. And I said, do whatever you want. I'm done. And needless to say, the next morning at 6 a.m., I was physically escorted to the airport with a security guard and actually put on the plane to make sure I go back to Russia, which was under my protest because I was legal to stay in the United States. I already had a green card.
Wow.
So yeah, they basically shipped me back to another country against my will.
That's the goodness of the Church of Scientology, huh?
Yep. 8 years of my life and hard work and dedication, working 70, 80, 100 hours a week. And we're just going to discard you as a piece of garbage.
Yep.
Because you broke the rules.
Throw you in a garbage can. To hell with you.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much they care about people.
Yeah.
So you were sent back to Russia. Now, did you have any place to go? I mean, what did you do?
No, I remember um I wasn't allowed to see my mom the whole time until literally the day before my flight at night. And I spoke to her. I saw her. We sat outside on the hacienda in the birthing on the steps. And I told her that they were kicking me out. And I said, I don't know why. I was fully expecting her to come with me. Um, Stupid of me to even think that. She said, no, I'm not leaving. I have my husband here. My mom is into this. So, no, I'm not leaving. And I was trying to tell her, like, don't you think this is unjust? Like, I didn't go out and do something on purpose.
Hmm.
She said, yeah, I think it is unjust, but these are the rules, and I'm not leaving. So I had, she gave me like $40, and I think I had like $40. So I had $80 in my pocket, two suitcases, and I arrived in Moscow at the airport. The only person I had there was my grandmother, who was a Sea Org member
Hmm.
and couldn't do anything or help me. I can't live with her.
Yeah.
Um, so she actually helped to arrange a job for me for Applied Scholastics, which is a front group in Scientology. And they didn't advertise themselves as Scientology in Russia. They advertised themselves as a business that taught English, like an English school, really.
Yeah.
So I became an English teacher over there for pretty much mostly students that were learning international business or business owners that needed to learn a language. The hourly rate for a one-on-one lesson was about $120. And Applied Scholastics made me sign a contract that I would only be getting 15% of that money,
Jesus.
which was barely enough to survive on. I mean, Moscow is like New York City. It is expensive.
Hmm.
And you cannot survive on $10 an hour salary. Impossible. So I was homeless. I had nowhere to go. So what I would do is I had the key to the Applied Scholastics office, and I would just do my lessons and everything else. And then I would come there late at night when I knew everybody was gone and sleep on the floor or put chairs together and sleep on the chairs
Hmm.
for a while.
What
So,
what a life.
um, yeah.
What a life. Oh boy.
hmm
So
And then, of course, my grandmother can't help me in any way. Like I said, she's a SEER member. I was also given a free load of debt when I left. Um, I was also told that I have to do lower conditions in order to get back into good standing.
yeah.
And my main purpose was honestly to go back to Clearwater because obviously I don't want to live in Russia, number one. Number two, I want to be close to my family. And obviously, the only people that I know are all Scientologists.
Yeah.
So, in order for me to get a job, in order for me to find a place to live, um, I have to get in contact with other Scientologists. And I knew a lot of public because I worked in the AO.
Yeah.
So,
Of
there was a
course.
lot of local Scientologists that I knew that were wealthy, had their own businesses, and things like that. So, um, I was just keep thinking, what can I do job wise in order to earn enough money so that I can go back and live in Clearwater. Um, Obviously, doing you know, housekeeping jobs and receptionist office jobs was not going to make enough money at all.
Hmm.
Um, I didn't finish high school. I have no high school degree, no GED, no college, nothing. And after thinking for a while, I realized my biggest strength was my English. So I need to find a job where that's going to be um, paying well just for knowing the language.
Yeah.
So I started looking around and I started sending my resume, and I found a job that was a personal assistant and a translator for CEO of Starbucks. Starbucks was just opening up in Russia. And he was an American, obviously didn't speak the language.
Yeah.
And I had this bullshit resume. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I had this resume that I finished Clearwater High School, and I started some college, and I did a 1 year of college in business management and all this stuff. And I mean, I lied so much on it. And I remember him looking at the resume, and he starts asking me questions about things on my resume, and I'm realizing that he's going to catch me in a lie.
Yeah.
So I ended up I just remember sitting and I'm going, you know what? I can't lie. I need this job really badly. I'm just going to tell him the truth. So I literally told him the truth that this is what happened. I was in Scientology and this and that. And I'm a very hard worker. I've worked 60, 70 hours since I was a teenager. My English is obviously perfect, as you can hear. And I would like him to just give me a chance. And he hired me.
That's great.
Which was really nice. So after working there for almost 2 years, I saved enough money. I paid off my freeloader debt, and I did my lower conditions. I was on my liability, and the only thing I needed to do was finish making up some damage, which is one of the steps,
You're talking about making up the damage to the church.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
Because I was an enemy, so I was signed enemy. I was an enemy. And so basically, because I didn't have my liability condition finished yet, technically, I was not allowed to come back to Clearwater. And security and all the ex-SEAL members, they are told, you're not physically allowed to go to Clearwater until you finish and get back into good standings. So since I have been working really hard on getting back into good standings, I had to write a petition to security, and I think it's senior MAFOB, that basically all I have to do is finish the last step on liability, which is making up the damage. And the only way I can make up the damage is by being in Clearwater and making up the damage to other Scientologists and helping the church and everything else. So I basically asked to go back to Clearwater, and I said, give me 2 weeks and I'll have my liability done. And they said, okay, you can come back. So I go to Clearwater. I had an apartment that I paid for in advance for 3 months. I had a job lined up as a babysitter for a very rich couple who were doing their OT levels at the AO. And I had my whole life laid out. And I went into a bank, but the only thing I was told by security was, you're not allowed to come anywhere near any of the flag buildings until you're done with your liability and it's approved.
Right.
I said, great, no problem. Not going anywhere near. So do you know Regions Bank on Cleveland Street?
I probably do, but it's been years since I've been down there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is not anywhere near any of the buildings. It's just a bank on one of the main streets in Clearwater.
Right.
So I go in there into the manager's office because now I need an American card. My card is Russian, which doesn't work everywhere.
Right.
So I need to transfer my money from international bank account and open an American bank account. I'm sitting in the manager's office and I'm getting my card opened. And when I finish, I turn around to leave. There is a security guard, Marlon, and the payroll lady from, and they're both SEAL members. I didn't say anything to them. I just walked by them and walked out of the bank. I'm not kidding wrong. 30 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call on my cell phone and I'm getting yelled at. And I was told to get my ass back into the security booth in the Fort Harrison garage. I go there. Security guard Spencer rims me out, calls me again, the B word, the C word, how dare you, you interpolated SEAL members. And I'm sitting and I'm going, I didn't even say anything to them. I'm in a bank, opening up a bank account. What did I do to them? I walked by them. And he said, just my presence interpolated them. And I have 24 hours to get that F out of Clearwater. My petition is denied to stay there. So here I am again, being kicked out for no fault of mine whatsoever. I am losing my 3-month deposit in my apartment. I'm losing my job. I have nowhere to go again. So there was quite a few Russian public that lived in Clearwater. And my mom organized for one of the public. He was an 18-wheeler driver. He drove a truck across country. So she said that he needed somebody to help him with a lot of his admin work for deliveries, and temporarily, until I work it out, where to go and what to do, I can go with him on this trip to California and back. So for a week and a half, I was in an 18-wheeler with a complete stranger who was making inappropriate moves on me.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. It
Unbelievable.
was, it's such a betrayal, honestly, because I felt like I'm going to be good. I'm going to do everything you asked me to do. I'll follow all the rules. Just please don't take the opportunity away from me from having a decent life, having a job, and being able to see my family. And that was taken away again.
No, what you just said is exactly what they deny you.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do. Look, it's their modus operandi. It's the way they operate. This is just an unbelievable case to talk about because it really pisses me off, I'll be honest with you. But I got to look at what is, and this is what is. What you're telling is what the church does. So, and go back to your story. I don't want to interrupt you again. Go on.
Yeah. And I forgot to mention, when I joined the EPF, I'm just going to go back for a quick second. When we joined the EPF in 1999, I'm not sure, do you remember when they closed down all the ranches in California and the cadet orgs?
Do I know when they closed it, did you say?
No, do you remember when they closed them all and they said no more cadet orgs, and they closed down the Int Ranch and the Pack Ranch?
I knew after the fact. I didn't know it at the exact time, though, because remember, I was in the Sea Org, and a lot of these things you're sheltered from hearing. You know that.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening coincidentally was when I joined the Sea Org in 1999, a lot of kids from the Int Ranch, it was either the Int Ranch or the Pack Ranch.
Yeah, of course.
Were sent, I'm not kidding, maybe about 50 kids were sent down to Flag to join the Sea Org. So they closed down the ranch and they said, okay, you can't be little kids anymore and being a burden on us. You're all going to go and join the Sea Org at Flag. And I think they were divided. Some went and joined the Sea Org in LA and some went to Flag.
Right.
So, and those were all kids of execs, international exec strata, pretty much.
Yeah.
So I kind of grew up with all of them. And, we kind of became like a little family because none of us had any parents that were taking care of us. So we were kind of just taking care of each other.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of them has left, like a lot of the AO staff, the technical staff, non-technical, not the auditors or anything, but the tech pages and everything else.
Right.
All of them were pretty much the kids from the Int Ranch.
Right.
And little by little, they have been leaving. But one thing I'm constantly seeing is that they're still in Scientology because they were in the same predicament as I was. Right. My parents are in, they're executives. And then on top of that, I can't get a job anywhere because the only people I know are Scientologists. If I'm going to work for a Scientologist, I have to be a Scientologist. And they're all pretty much still in. A very little amount of those kids actually even left Scientology completely.
Yeah.
And is what's sad to me, because it was like I'm not, literally to me, it reminds me of like Hitler Youth.
Yeah, it
And
is.
they're just this following the orders and doing exactly what the playbook said because that's all they know since
Yeah,
they were little.
I know that indoctrination holds tight to a person's mind. You're actually trapped by your own mind at that point. But
Yeah.
anyway, getting back to this truck driver when you did that trip, what was the end phenomena of that, so to speak?
So I ended up finding a room for rent in Orlando, and I rented a room in Orlando. Um, but what actually ended up happening was when I was on my way to Clearwater, before I got kicked out, I had a layover at JFK, and I went outside to have a smoke, and I met a young man who was having a smoke, and I asked for a light. That young man ended up being my husband.
Oh, wow.
He was taking a lot of business trips to Orlando. So when I ended up moving to Orlando, I had nobody there. So I was like, oh, well, let me give this guy a call. He was very nice, and maybe I could try to make some friends here or whatever. And the rest is history. Um, I ended up moving to New York, and we got married, and we have been together for 11 years.
Hmm. So this has a happy ending.
At the end, yes. For some.
Yeah, at the end. But then
Um,
didn't you get involved with Jason Begay and Mike Rinder somehow?
yeah. So, after I got kicked out of Clearwater, I pretty much said, I'm not doing anything anymore for you. I'm not going to do any of the liability conditions. I'm not like, you guys screwed me twice.
Yeah.
I did everything by the rules, and you guys keep like, this is unfair. Um, and I guess in my mind, I thought that I could get them to apologize and remove my lower conditions and, let me be in good standing. Um, if I just make them see that they were wrong.
Let me tell you something. Your chances of that happening would be the same odds of going up to a wooden Indian outside of a cigar store and getting that Indian to actually start talking to you. And it was a wooden Indian. That's about what your
Yeah.
chances are. You know that now, of course.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I mean, it's in other words, the goodness of a person would think, well, what the hell? If they faulted me, why don't they just say, look, we're sorry.
Hmm.
You're a decent person. They're not a
Hmm.
decent group. They are
Yeah.
not decent people. I'm telling you, I just
Absolutely. And back then, I had no willingness to go out and say anything. I wasn't gonna go public. All I wanted was for them to take the responsibility that they did wrong by me,
yeah,
and for me to and allow my family come visit me and let me go and visit my family in Clearwater.
yeah,
That's all I wanted.
yeah,
At this point, I already have my own life. I'm successful. I opened up my own business. I was doing very well. I got married. All I wanted was stop harassing me and let my mother come and see me and let me have a relationship with my family. Period.
yeah.
But they wouldn't do that. They were consistently monitoring my Facebook. They were monitoring my social media. I was constantly getting phone calls from the ethics. I was constantly getting phone calls from um, other departments. I was being told I got to do courses. I got to buy the basic lectures. No, I need 10 sets of basic lectures. I need to get back into auditing. And the constant harassment and the constant phone calls. I remember when Debbie Cook sent out that infamous email,
Yeah,
and she was my captain, and she actually remembered me pretty well.
yeah,
I responded to her email, and I was like, Debbie, you're absolutely right. There is a lot of corruption in
yeah,
the executives. This is insane.
yeah.
Little by little, their own actions is what started to turn me to say, listen, this is insane. Like, you can't continue to harass me. And if you're going to, you're the one that's going to push me in the direction of speaking out about it.
Like right now,
So,
like what you're doing right now.
exactly.
And
So, I knew that if I spoke out about it, I was going to get declared. And I was not ready to lose my what little bit of a relationship that I had with my mother.
yeah,
And the little really, it was very little. She would come and visit maybe once a year for 2, 3 days. And a lot of times it would be very inconvenient because she has to write a CSW and then she has to get a step check in order for her to leave.
yeah,
So the dates would constantly be changing. If she says she's coming May 5th, she might not come until June 17th
I know.
because, and then her job is the CEO St. Castle Osceola. So she deals with everybody that comes and stays at the hotel. And a lot of times it's celebrities. So she would call me sometimes and say, I can't come because the celebrity's coming into town. So I know I told you I'm coming this date and I know you bought a ticket already, but I can't come to those days.
Yeah,
I'm just not going to get approved. So at one point, I remember watching Jason's Big A's video with Mark Bunker.
right.
And what struck me was because I knew Jason when he was a public in the area.
Yeah,
And he was always such a decent, kind, just a decent, kind human
yeah.
being.
That's a good description of him because I know Jason personally. He is a decent person.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. That describes him. A decent
Hmm.
person.
And he's a straight shooter,
Yeah, I know.
which is, I guess it's the New Yorker in me, right? But he was always very nice to me. And there was some public that were not nice people. I will tell you that for sure.
Yeah, I know.
Um, so I reached out to him and I said, Jason, I'm in this dilemma. I don't want to lose my relationship with my mother, but I want them to admit that they were wrong. And I want them to remove this, bad person cloud over my head. And he basically told me, honey, that's never going to happen.
Yeah,
He burst my bubble.
yeah. He was right.
He was.
He was right.
And
Yeah,
hey, I really did needed that. I needed somebody that knew my world to
yeah,
tell me this is never going to happen. Um, and I said, well, I'm not ready to lose my relationship with my mother.
yeah,
And he said, well, what kind of relationship do you really even have with her at this point? Do
yeah,
you have a relationship with her? And that struck me because I was like, you know what, you're absolutely right. And I did have a conversation with my mom afterwards because we were getting married. So that was the last time I saw her was when she came to my wedding.
hmm,
And I sat down and I had a heart-to-heart conversation with her. And I said, listen, I don't care that you want to stay in Scientology. I don't want to be a Scientologist, but I'm not against it. If that's what you want to believe and that's what you want to do, go for it.
yeah,
But I have an issue with you being in this org. And if you really want to have a relationship with me, it's just not going to work because it is just not even practical in the real world.
yeah,
I cannot call you. I can't talk to you. You can't come and visit. I'm getting married. We're going to start a family. What? And I painted a very clear example for her because for some reason I thought maybe that was some kind of open her eyes to some
yeah,
things. And I said, listen, what if I'm pregnant and I'm going into labor? You can't be like, oh, I'm getting on the flight and I'm coming right now. You have to go through a SEC check. You got to get through this approved to even freaking leave. Like, you're going to miss so much of my life and of your grandchildren because you're trapped. Like, go and work for the New York org, the class 5 org, for any other org. Go ahead, be a staff. But you cannot be in the org and expect to have a relationship with me.
right.
I can't call you for marriage advice. I can't call you for an advice as to how to buy a house. Like, we bought our first house. You have no idea what goes into buying a house in the United States. So there is no relationship, really. The only thing we can talk about is Scientology.
Yeah.
That's it. And we offered her to leave the Sea Org with my stepdad and my grandmother. And we said we will take care of them financially and help to get on their feet. And she declined, which was
Wow.
like the second or the third time I felt like she just stabbed me in my back again.
So what is the final upshot of that with your mom? You're disconnected from her, right?
Yes, I got declared in January 2015 for, ready for this? Liking Tom DeVox's dog photo on Facebook.
Okay. Look, let's wrap it up because I'll tell you, it's just what you're saying is all true.
Hmm.
But I really, I'm glad you come on to give you a chance to do this. Well, how are you doing now, though? I mean, don't you have a nice husband? You have a child.
Yeah,
You have
for
you have a fucking life right now.
I have a great life at this point. I think I'm very lucky to be where I am right now because I do see a lot of ex Scientologists, especially kids, second generations, that it takes a lot for them to
Yeah,
get their life together just
yeah.
because they have so many disadvantages. But yeah, I had my own very successful business in New York. Then we decided to move to Austin a couple years ago for better quality of living, and we have a son, and I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I'm taking care of my child, and honestly that's like my dream job, to be a good mother, and that's what I'm doing.
I'll tell you, to rise up from that scene back in 1996, 1998 to where you are now. That takes a lot of guts, and I give you credit, Katrina. I admire your courage, and you're continuing to fight for your own freedom and your own thoughts and your own life. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
This is really wonderful. I tell you. My producer wanted to get a hold of me here. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, we have a couple of super chats here. Um, first one came in nearly beginning of the show. Chris, I'm going to butcher the last name. I'm sorry. Clenotz, Clenotz, says, "Happy birthday, Mr. Miscavige. Coffee on me."
Hey, thank you. It's probably Klimovich, something like that, maybe. Hey, thanks a lot, man. I appreciate that very much. Thank you.
And the second one we have is from Melissa Payne. Happiest of birthdays to you, Ron. Keep on trucking, handsome. XO.
Hey, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Michael. So, Katrina, are we done here with them?
Yeah, that's it for now.
Katrina, you hear me?
Yes. Hmm.
I congratulate you for having the courage to do this and come on and bare your soul. But I'll tell you, it's people like you that, in the final analysis, make a difference in this world. Because to remain silent and do nothing about it, not okay in my book. And
Yeah.
all of you out there, you see a courageous woman here who now has a life of her own and a wonderful one as far as I can see. You want to help out in something like this? Share this video so more people get enlightened as to what this group really is, the Church of Scientology. You want to help a little further, you can become a patron. You go to my website, therealronmiscavige.com, and you can see how to do so. And that helps us because we don't have a sponsor. I do this because I want to do it, but I appreciate any help I can get like that. So anyway, from me to all of you out there, and from Katrina, I say have a wonderful day and have a wonderful life, and keep on trucking, as they say. Bye-bye, Katrina.
Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Bye-bye, everybody. I'll see you on the next episode of Life After Scientology.